the really exciting thing is being able to rally hundreds of people around something and then achieve it.
Wow, wow, wow is all I can say. Heather Lovier from Rocket. She's the COO. You guys don't know what that is? That's like the badass person over at Rocket, the one that actually does all the work, the one that gets it done. And I think after this interview, you're going to be like, I get it. She's powerful. She is not just powerful, but like well spoken, determined. And the way I look at it is like, and she made a point of it. She loves the client, and the client is both the end consumer and the broker. You guys are going to experience, I believe, the power of Rocket within this interview. And she's going to let on to, to a lot of the things that Rocket is doing. She holds a little bit tight on some of them, but she is going to tell us a few things too. And there is a bright future ahead for us brokers. You guys are going to love this one. Okay, here she is, the woman behind Rocket, Heather Lovier. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Dino.
Well, I got a million questions for you, but before we even get into all that, just tell everybody who you are. Who is Heather Lovier personally and professionally?
Sure. Heather Lovier is the COO of Rocket Companies, but I'm also a mother and a wife to my high school sweetheart. We've been together for many, many years. I have two grown children, and they are my life. I shouldn't really say children; they're young women at this point, Madison and Lindsay, and one has a wedding coming up. So super excited about that. But love my career is something that has, really grown over time here at Rocket. I celebrated my 23rd year here this year, which has been incredible. I started out as a loan processor, so entry level team member. I didn't know anything about mortgages except for that I had one. My daughters were 2 and 4. My husband was in law enforcement and worked crazy hours. And at the time it was Rock Financial, Quicken Loans. And so I came over and said, I'll do this for a couple of years and we'll figure it out. And 23 years later, I'm the COO of a publicly traded company. And so it's been a remarkable journey, one that I'm so thankful for. Dan Gilbert and Bill Emerson and a lot of other folks really, took a chance and, believed in me and put me in roles that maybe I didn't completely believe in myself for. But we're able to figure it out and get it done along the way. And so it's been a really incredible journey.
Well, you must have a little bit of that crazy gene because being in the mortgage business for that long and doing everything you do is a lot of work.
Yeah, I would say
I
it's a little more of an obsession, I guess, than crazy. But you're right. You have to be crazy to be in this line of work for this long, especially in the mortgage industry at the same company. That doesn't happen very often. But, Rocket has just continued to reinvent ourselves and diversify and do different things. And, it's just been incredible. Every day you wake up and there's something new. We kind of are like a giant startup, the way we think about things and the way we approach, being the best that we can be in the mortgage industry and never being satisfied.
That is such an interesting comment because I've gotten in pretty deep with Rocket in the past year, and I've chosen them for our company to be our number one, right? And with that, for me, comes a lot more than just a place to do loans. And what I found so interesting is that you guys are as big as you are, and you are acting like a startup.
Mhm.
It's really it's mind-boggling to me that you're still acting like that. Most companies at this stage kind of, well, the way I like to say it is they become so legacy that I keep waiting, like, how long are they gonna be around? Because I don't believe legacy can exist anymore. If you don't reinvent now, you're gonna be done. That's how I
Right.
feel.
Right. And well, not only are you a partner of ours, but I think I remember you being in our Super Bowl commercial as well, which is a huge honor. So thank you for your partnership, but we really appreciate that. But you're right. We have to constantly be reinventing ourselves because, what a lot of times Dan would remind us of is, what got us here won't get us there. And that stands for everything, right? That is a culture that continues to evolve and get stronger. That's the technology has to change. It has to go through evolution. We're on the cusp of AI changing everything that we do. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And that is just really from Dan's entrepreneurial spirit from the beginning. I mean, we just celebrated 41 years just a couple days ago, and so you don't hear about those types of things. And, we're more than just a mortgage company, right? We're also focused on changing the cities that we work, live, and play in. And, that's been very near and dear to not only my heart, but the entire company. Because when you work for someone that wants to do something bigger than themselves, that's a huge motivator. And I think that's why we do have a lot of team members that stick around.
So I'll say I was in Detroit. I think it was last September or October or something
Mhm.
like that, and I felt safer walking through downtown Detroit than I did in many other places in Orange County in the middle of the night, right? And then I found out how many buildings you guys own in downtown Detroit, and I was floored. And
Yeah,
then I found out how much money you guys have invested, not just in your buildings, but the entire community.
that's right. Yeah,
What's the what is that? Why?
yeah. I think it's just something that Dan has been passionate about. Many years ago, 15 plus years ago, and he's like, we're picking up and leaving the suburbs and going to Detroit. Everyone was like, what? Are, why? Why would you do something like that? And to be honest with you, when we got down here, it was like tumbleweeds through the city. There was no Starbucks, there was no roasting plant, there was no cool restaurants. And that was Dan's vision, is that if we came down and others who were already down here, Pete Carmanos and Roger Penske, they had committed to being down here. And so then Blue Cross, and you just name everybody. And we just had to be the first ones. And then now we see it so successful, that Dan isn't just interested in protecting his buildings, but every buildings have cameras on them. They're not just there for show. We're watching, we're making sure that people like yourself and other people come down here, they can feel safe. We absolutely want you down here in the urban core, but we're also doing things in the community, removing the blight, helping, the local government do the things that need to be restoring parks so children have safe places to play and do. So, we're building, or we built a giant skyscraper, the Hudson's building, leveled it and rebuilt it to be, one of the tallest buildings in downtown Detroit. And it's been a long time since we've seen cranes in Detroit. And so being able to know that, my role at Rocket Mortgage and Rocket Companies and all of our 24,000 team members had a part in building that building, that's our legacy, right? It's not about the legacy tech or how we run the business. That's our legacy. We did that, and we did that together.
How much influence or involvement does Dan Gilbert still have?
He's not far away. I will tell you that. He comes to the office several days a week. He's on email, text, Slack, I mean, you name it. He's really involved, but he also trusts. And that's the best thing about it, is that you can go to Dan with any situation or tell him what we're doing. He's gonna have an opinion. But what we've learned, really over the last 5, 10 years, is Dan really trusts his leadership team. And he wants us to be able to execute and do more than just rely on him for decisions. So now he's more of an advisor. But when it comes to spreadsheets, the numbers, the P&L, the dollars, how we're treating our clients, when I meet with him, that's the first thing he says. How's the client service? Not how much money are we making, or what's the rate today? What's the price today? He asks, how are our clients? And then the next question that comes out of his mouth, how's the team? Everybody getting what they need. Everyone, I know AI is a little bit scary. How do people feel about that? He cares like tremendously about our team members. And quite honestly, that's one of the reasons we went public, is so that he could give some of our team members stock, most of our team members that were here at the time, so that they could build wealth where maybe they wouldn't have it. And so it's just an incredible testament to, what he's told us for many, many years, is love your team members, love your clients. And, that's what we strive to do every single day. And, now over the years, we've grown to partners, agents. Not only are we loving our direct clients and our team members, but also those that work inside of our ecosystem is something that, we have to have bigger hugs now because we have so many folks that we're involved in. But it is something that is top of mind for him.
So I'm gonna poke fun, just two quick questions, and I'm gonna come back to that because I think the culture there is I want to dig into that a little bit. Does he show up and tell Varun what to do?
I think Verone has a pretty good hold on the direction of the company. Again, Dan and Varun have built a very great relationship, he's very interested in the things that Varun comes up with and talks about. And, it's very inspiring for him to see someone that wasn't in the mortgage business to come into the mortgage business and make an impact. But it is also helping us. What got us here won't get us there. And so he loves poking the bear, I guess, as he would say. And so Varun does a really great job of, really pushing us like, are we thinking big enough? And Dan, he always wants to think bigger than everybody else is going to think. And Varun has really delivered on his promise. And we call it, Varun came in here and started talking about the say do ratio. And as in the mortgage business, strategies can change from 1 minute to the next. But he really held strong on, our AI fueled home ownership journey and our say do ratio. We're doing a pretty damn good job of it because now we have the end to end ecosystem that, Varun worked very closely with Dan on to agree for us to deliver. I mean, we wrote a book called The Blueprint when Varun first came here, and it wasn't a new book. It was just another chapter on how we were going to go forward. And every single team member read that book and knew exactly where we were going. So it was a surprise that we bought two big companies in 30 days, but it wasn't really a surprise because we knew in order for us to fulfill that strategy of AI fueled home ownership and helping everyone home, we needed the other pieces of the puzzle to be able to do that and strengthen our ecosystem. So while it was super exciting, and if you want to talk about crazy, announcing two acquisitions of two publicly traded companies within 30 days, that's crazy.
That is crazy. So let's focus on that for a minute. Um, you know, are you thinking big enough? That one phrase, well, apparently somebody was, right, with
It's
those two big acquisitions. So in our broker space, right? Because that's who our audience is.
in
I hear this all the time. I get second guessed every once in a while when I try defending Rocket and I talk about where I think the vision is and how it's going to benefit us. And then I have, the naysayers, and oftentimes they're like, "Come on, dude, how can you be so blind?" You know, this is where they're going. And then this is where you're going to end up. Right. So let's talk about the broker community and those two big purchases.
yeah.
What does that mean for the typical broker?
Yeah. I think it's a great question and one that we're often faced with, right? Like, why would you go work with Rocket? They're going to take your clients, they're going to do some of these things. And, philosophically, that's just not who we are. The market is big enough for all of us to work together. And why not power our brokers like yourself with the cool tools that we have at Rocket, right? Like, we're not trying to hoard all the tools or try to, be better. We know that in the local communities, that's where we can help, and we're not there. And so, leveraging our brokers is very important to us. And I'll talk specifically about Redfin, but being able to make sure that we're leveraging Redfin in the local communities, pairing agents with the brokers, things of that sort. I think that's the direction that we're going. And obviously, we have a lot of leads. And so, how do we formulate and figure out how that can benefit the broker? And then also with some of our other partnerships that we've just announced with Compass, right? We have the savings that can be done and passed on to our brokers and to your clients. And so how do we leverage all of that as we come together to build this ecosystem, not just for Rocket, but all of the folks that are playing inside of it? And so when folks do say that, they don't know who we are, right? We are not attacking different books. We're definitely not sharing client information with other brokers about other broker loans, whether that's to recapture them or refinance them or whatever it is. When you're a partner with Rocket, we treat you just as that. And you are operating a business that we want to grow. When you win, we win. And I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that, we're going to steal your clients and we're going to take it over. We want to fuel your business just the same as we want to fuel ours. And like I said, there's enough to go around. And so I think people who don't work with Rocket have that thought process. And luckily for us, we have great partners like yourself and many, many others that do believe because our say do ratio is there. We may not be able to always deliver the fastest technology or some of these other things, but when we say we're going to do something for you, when we say we're going to help you protect your client, when we say we're going to give you AI tools to help maximize how you keep those relationships with your clients and how those clients keep coming back to you, we mean it because that's what we're doing.
So I'll say from my perspective, just for everyone listening, I don't operate from a scarcity mindset. I want to operate from an abundance mindset, right? So for those of you guys that are listening and you're wondering what that means, specifically to Rocket, I believe they're going to still protect me. I believe that if one of my clients went to Rocket behind my back, that they would let that client know that they have to come back and deal with me and I get notified. And I believe that because I've seen it, not because I heard rumors that it doesn't happen, right? Which is what too many of us have heard, but because hard, cold facts state that Rocket has always lived up to their word about returning that client back to me. And I'll also say, as a broker, if I go to Rocket and sell a loan there, not only do I feel protected there, but on the refinance several months later, it is more likely that a client will go back to Rocket just because of their name. So if I'm going to make a choice up front about going to Rocket, or let's just say, I'm not going to knock PennyMac. PennyMac's great, right? Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But let's just say like a Mega Capital or one of these other type of place. Well, you know what, guys? They sell that loan within days of funding it. And if they sell it, you immediately put a target on your back 6, 12 months later when it's time to refinance. You immediately have to deal with the servicer that does not want to lose. So if I had to choose between the two, you're saying Rocket might change their mind one day and Rocket might want to go after our clients one day. Well, if you choose this other route, plan B, you're doing it to yourself right out of the gate. So
Sure.
there's no logic there. And oh, by the way, and this is again my mindset. Oh, by the way, if you do a great job with your clients, they're not going to want to go anywhere else. Now, if you don't talk to them in that 12 months and all of a sudden they want to refinance, why would they call you? So be better at what you do, operate better on your side. And it doesn't matter who you're dealing with. I don't care who it is. I'm always going to win that deal no matter what. So operate that way. And that's the, as you say, the say do ratio, right? Like
Right.
do it.
Building
So
relationships. I mean, that's what it's all about.
now, as far as the integrations, right? I mean, 2 huge company, 3 huge companies. How do you integrate them all together? I mean, that is I can't even comprehend doing that.
Yeah.
And then after you tell me that in a brief statement, I want to break down each one just a little bit with certain questions that I have.
Sure, no problem. So, luckily for you, I was at the front seat of being able to do these integrations because I had the honor and pleasure of integrating Mr. Cooper into Rocket Mortgage. And I also helped with Redfin. So, hopefully, I'll be able to answer most of the questions that you're going to have. But, it's just we set a timeline. We gave ourselves a very aggressive timeline. We program managed the heck out of it. But more importantly, we reached into the org and brought in people that were subject matter experts in all areas. So you didn't just have one team or one outside company come in and try to run the integration. We had specific work groups with leaders, subject matter experts, legal support, data support. I mean, you name it, and everybody went and did their piece of the pie. And then we would meet either on a daily basis or every other day, review what are the roadblocks, what are the successes, and we would celebrate those successes along the way of our timeline. But also, there was a lot of tough decisions that had to be made, and you have to do those timely. I work very closely with Kurt Johnson, tremendous friend now through the integration, and he and I were partners in this integration with Mr. Cooper. And what system are you going to use? Where are people going to go? What are the technologies we're going to deploy? What are the things we're going to shut down? How do we pick a servicing system? Those are all questions that you have to answer pretty quickly. And then when you think about the people side of things, when will people move over? How will they move over? What will the insurance benefits be? So, we really had to think about it, the tactical stuff, but then we also had to think about the human side. This is a lot of change for not only for our Mr. Cooper team members, but for Rocket, right? We, many, many years ago, you would have never thought we were public. And then of course we went public. And now we're buying two publicly, traded companies. And so it was a lot of change management, but I think at the core of it was transparency. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's when we're going to do it. And we accomplished that. We set out to close the Mr. Cooper deal October 1st. And I will tell you that many people looked at me that I had 7 heads and they said, there's no way. That is impossible. Impossible. And I said, where there's a will, there's a way. And by the way, in big rooms, I'm not gonna say you're probably right, but in this room, I'm gonna say, we're gonna do our damnedest to get there. But if we don't, we can't let it slip into the next year, but we're gonna align to that. And we hit it, and so that was the really exciting thing is being able to rally hundreds of people around something and then achieve it. And, slowly thereafter, a lot of the other stuff with our servicing book and everything now has been converted over to one system. And we've been able to do that in less than a year, which is just like mind blowing. Like no one's ever moved millions of clients into one platform, into one system ever. Right. So there is no real use case there. And then when you think about Redfin, we announced Redfin in the beginning of March and we closed in July, just 1 year ago, tomorrow. And so that was also something that we put out there because we knew we wanted to at least capture some of the purchase season with being able to have, the site up. But, we had a company that we had to unwind as well with Racket Homes. And, so while there was a lot of excitement, there's still a little bit of bittersweet. And how do we bring these companies together to make sure that we're maximizing the opportunities? But, we are in Seattle, we're in Dallas, we're in Phoenix, we're in Cleveland, we're in Detroit. So there was just a lot of logistics that had to go on, a lot of cultures. Luckily for us, Redfin and Mr. Cooper's cultures were similar. We were saying a lot of the same things, but maybe saying it a little bit differently. And so for us, we weren't that far apart. And so bringing us all together, it made a little bit more, make it easier from an integration standpoint. But it was really came down to the people and the hard work and the effort and the time and maybe a few tears along the way. But we did it. And we're so thankful that we did.
Let me make a statement, and you can tell me if I'm red hot, warm, lukewarm, or just ice cold. It would be great if you guys could have some sort of a scoring model that graded us brokers on how good we were on purchase transactions, and the people with the highest grade got leads in that order somehow from Redfin. Is that even remotely in the works?
It is in the works. I won't tell you if you're hot or cold, but it's in the works.
You tell me if I'm gonna have to be sitting down for a while and waiting, or am I gonna be able to get in line fairly soon?
No, as it's a great question because there's the Redfin and then there's Compass as well, right? And so as we're partnering there, we have even more, leads that need to be distributed, but also we want to make sure that we're giving them to our brokers that are going to do something with them. So we are looking for people to say, I'm in, right? I will maximize the opportunity. And that's really what we're looking forward to. We've started some pilots on the refi side of the house, but we have not done it yet on purchase. And so, Dina, what I hear you saying is like, I'm in. Let me be the first one in some of those propensity models to gather some of those purchase leads as we kick them out from our ecosystem.
Yeah, and I'm not producing much anymore, but
Well,
I was a high producer, and I will say how you deal with a purchase transaction is completely different. And I remember every time one of my clients made an offer, the phone call or the video that I would always do to the listing agent, it was never the typical, oh, we got him fully approved and blah, 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 right? A part of it was that. And the other part was just so you know, we are a purchase shop. I do purchase transactions for a living. And what that means to you is that I not only understand how to do a loan, but I understand the importance of closing dates, contingency dates. And more importantly, I understand the importance of emotions, buyer's emotions, seller's emotions, and realtor's emotions. So I promise you that that's one thing you don't have to worry about. And that's just a completely different mindset. We hired our first lead guy not too long back, and everything went like completely the way you would never want your name associated to it, right? And we had to step in to try and clean it up. And his whole mindset was like, screw it. He said, I'm just gonna tell him I can't do it. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. My director of ops said, no, you don't get it. There's money on the line.
Mhm.
There's things that have happened. Lawsuits are going to happen if you don't get this done. So we took it over and we finished it a week late, but we finished it.
Mhm.
And the mindset is shocking to me that people just don't get it. So
That
I do believe, right? Like you're piloting the refi, that's fine. That's a whole different animal. But on the purchase side, it better be a top-notch person, right? Because that reputation, you only get one shot at it.
that is exactly right. And, when we think about how we love our clients, our brokers, our agent, we want everyone to have a great experience. And so putting the client in the hands of someone that's not going to have that mindset would be detrimental. And that's not something we want to do. So, it is taking us a little bit longer than maybe we would have wanted, but we want to do it right.
So here's the other question now. Red hot, lukewarm, ice cold. Now I'm going to switch gears and go over to Mr. Cooper. With Mr. Cooper, here's what I would envision. And again, this is Dino's perfect, life, right? I would envision that somehow ethos lending gets put on the statement or the email or whatever it is every month. Is there any kind of a warmth that comes to to mind when I say that?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is warmth. I mean, we do this, right? Mr. Cooper had a subservicing business, which we now continue on with. And so the possibilities are there. It's just, does our broker community want that? And, obviously there's a cost to doing everything. Is it worth us doing that and continuing our partnership? It's absolutely something that we are talking about. But we want to make sure that we're also giving our brokers something that they want, not something we think they need. But if we hear, this is what I want to do, I'd be willing to, do something differently from a price standpoint or something like that, that we can do it together. We would love to do that. And oh, by the way, when it comes to recapture, here are your clients that, you should probably be talking to, and you'll know that because you've already built a relationship and you have your CRM. But leveraging our tools when we know that your clients can benefit from something and we're giving you that information through AI, and you just run the play, and then it comes right back to us. Ethos is right on the statement once again. So that is absolutely
It's really
something that we
interesting
are
you
warm
asked
to,
the question,
for
right?
sure.
If that is something our brokers would want. And I believe there's two, right? There's the broker owners. I would want that in a heartbeat. But the reality is I don't dictate where they're going to send their loans, but how do I convince them that this is the best place to go? I mean, already I tell them, hey, Rocket's got EPO
Okay.
protection. Rocket has this, Rocket has that. And still, sometimes they make a decision to go somewhere else. I don't know if it's because the rep was better looking. I don't know what it was that made them want to go to that one place. And nothing against Mike DePew. We love Mike DePew. He's as good looking as they get for a man. But sometimes they choose to go elsewhere, right? And for the life of me, even over a few bips, I don't think it's worth it. I think throwing in something like that
Okay.
as a owner, I could go to my guys and say, guys, don't be stupid. Let me explain to you what the longevity game
Yeah.
is and how it's played. Right. So anyways, we can move on past that. Here's another fun question I'm just going to throw out, and you don't have to answer it, but
Sure.
does Dan Gilbert think about Matt Ishbia ever? Okay, good.
No.
Oh
The
my
least of his
goodness.
worries.
I am so sick of that whole thing. It's just like, I still can't believe they're even holding, like, they want to hold on to that so bad. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, especially, this is
Yeah.
my favorite, especially when they took a big pool of their loans and sold them to Mr. Cooper. Everything you've been preaching, you just did. Okay, we can stop talking about them now.
That's exactly
Uh,
it.
so
Yeah.
you said something a minute ago, and it caught my attention. And it caught my attention the first time when Varun said it. And when I'm out recruiting, I say all the time, and I love Rocket. So when I say this, nothing against Rocket, right? I say, hey, listen, technology, all this stuff, like I'm all about it. We have to use it as much as we can. But I said, let Rocket and Lone Depot and some of these big boys, let them compete against each other with technology. No matter how much money I spend, it's not even a day's worth of how much they spend, right? So I can't compete with that. But the one thing they can't compete with is us, because kind of love we can, and I use that word, which is what you use, the kind of love we can give our clients,
Yeah.
you can't do with any technology, no matter what. It has to be from a person. And I've been
That's
using
right.
that, right? But and the other thing I always say is like, Rocket, they have to do this much business in the entire nation just to break even. We have to do just this much in our own county to be millionaires. So why don't we just focus on this, right? Now I show up
Mhm.
to Detroit last year, and Varun is on there. It's the first time I've ever really heard him talk anything. And I got a little man crush on him ever since, because I loved his style. Like, I just loved his execution, and
Mhm.
he's not grandstanding or peacocking or anything. I mean, he is the most, like, chill human being, right? And the way he created certain things that I saw from an owner's perspective, like, that's how you be a better CEO. So I try to implement some of these things, right?
Mhm.
But he used the word love. And I sat there and I was perplexed, because I've been saying, like, they can't compete with us. And I found to myself, how does such a big company think that they could even love the clients? Like, how? They don't know how to. But you said it
Well,
again.
well, yeah, we do. And I think that's, one of the things that has never changed is the love for the client. Like without clients, we're nothing, right? And whether that's through a broker channel, through our real estate agents, through the call center, through direct to consumer, through our local brokers or our local loan officers, the client is at the center of that. And you have to fall in love in order to provide the best service possible. And that's what we do. We are obsessed with finding a better way. And that's because we want to convey that love. And a lot of people have said, to your point, like the technology and the AI, like you can't replace a human. You're right. But it can complement what we're doing so that we can provide speed to certainty. We can make sure we're hitting those closing dates. So that way you can continue to love on your clients. We'll continue to love on our clients. But we have to fall in love with the problem as well. And so being obsessed with something is great, but if you don't fall in love with the problem or the opportunity that you're trying to solve, like for example, Dan Gilbert did not just wake up 41 years ago and say, I want to do mortgages. He knew there was an opportunity or a problem that needed to be solved in Michigan, in his small little town. And so he went to solve it. And then we'd solved it for all 50 states, all 3,400 county. I mean, you name it. But when you have that thinking, that mindset, that you have to wow that one person. And then yes, of course you have to scale over time, but you have to do it for the right reasons. And so that's why when we say love, we mean it. Like we have to, Varun will tell us, you have to fall in love with the problem in order to solve it properly. And that's how we think about our clients. If we are disappointing someone, or we're leaving someone in a U-Haul for an extra night, or we're not able to get the money to them quick enough on a refinance to send their kids account, like whatever it is, that is a failure to us. And when we have issues, our service recovery is fantastic. But I will tell you, every issue that we see, I'm on an email. Varun is on an email. Jay Bray is on the same email. And those team members have to respond on what the hell happen? How could you disappoint our client? And by the way, Dan Gilbert is still on those emails. He doesn't reply as much as he used to, but there were many replies he would say, how could you ruin our reputation on one thing? You didn't return a phone call. You didn't make sure the right document was in. You didn't make sure that, somebody connected with somebody else. You're ruining our reputation. And so as you get bigger, if you don't protect and if you don't love your team members and love your clients, then we're not sitting here, we're not talking right now, honestly, Dino, because we're not a bank, right? Now we have a much larger ecosystem, but back in the day, this is all we had was the mortgage. And so you have to be great at it in order for clients to come back. And, we strongly believe that's why our clients come back to Rocket. 9 out of 10 times, if they're going to do their next refi, they're going to do it with us. And that's not because we ignored them. It's not because we made them feel like a number. We made it easy for them to do one of the hardest, complex things that they have to do. And we did it quickly and we did it with a smile. And whether that's a smile or emoji through chat or email or even through the phone, we want to make sure that our clients feel like they're the only
Yeah.
client we have at that moment.
I'll just say from my perspective, right? You guys loved me, and now you have a disciple that's out there preaching it because of what you guys did. And the one thing for everybody listening, it's the same with when you're going after realtors, or the same when you're going direct to consumer, whatever it is. It's at the end of the day, a a love, right, for them doesn't happen at the snap of a fingers. It takes a little time. But
Mhm.
the longevity of that relationship is better, right? It's like cooking. My mom always said, "The slower you cook it, the better it's gonna be. Don't rush it." And I think that holds true in business. Oftentimes, it's the wham bam, thank you, ma'am, let's go. But get to know the person, fall in love with them, do good things, and then you're married to your high school sweetheart for how many years? Like, you know?
Yeah, it's been since 1998. So it's been a long time. It's been a long time, but it's been worth it. And we all know it's not all the good times. It's the seasons that are a little rocky. And so, obviously at Rocket, we want to partner with everyone who wants to partner with us. But we also are very proud of who we are and what we do and how we take care of the broker community. And we're ever evolving and we're getting stronger and stronger every day. And, I know we've said this before, but we're just stronger together than we are
Let
apart.
me let me switch gears just a little bit. I'm out there recruiting every day. It's a big piece of what I do. Trying to grow the company. I'd say the hottest ticket right now is the departing LO from IMBs. They're just getting their ass kicked every single day. So to them, it's just a clear, clear vision of, if I want to do better, I have to make a move. But then they're always so, like, overwhelmed with the rumors of, you have no control. You know, you're never going to be able to get a loan done. There's nobody to help you. And I always tell them the opposite. What I tell them is that if the rates drop to 3% right now and everybody's business 10x, how long would it take your underwriters to underwrite a loan? Because I can tell you, if you were on the broker side, how long it would take. Maybe it wouldn't be 24 hours anymore. Maybe it'd be 4 days, right? Like in the beginning, until everybody scales up. But you can also spread them out a little bit. But I bet you anything, you guys are going to be over a week, 2 weeks, just in underwriting.
Not at
And
Rocket.
that's and Rocket just pulls in, right? Like, you have that ability. So the way I always explain it is, it's so nice because I have somebody that wants my business. And because they want my business, they're always making an effort to prove to me that they deserve it. And I think that's the beauty of being a broker. So, unless you have something else to say on that, or if you agree or add to it, it's up to you. But I do have one question to follow up with it.
Yeah. No, I just would comment that, we have to earn your business. We have to earn the right for you to choose Rocket. And We want to be able to put the best product out there that you feel comfortable with and that you can fall in love with and feel good about the decision that you've made. So, that's all we can do, and then it's up to the individual
So
to decide.
here's a follow-up question to that. One of the other rumors, and part of it, I will even say it's true at different times. Oftentimes, you'll hear the broker is not the broker, but the loan officers on the broker side are not as good at their job, right? It's where the lesser of the two go, and and I will say that uh, I got in an argument with Matt Ishbia one time about it because he didn't understand my gripe, and my gripe was, "You're letting everybody into the business. You're just telling everybody, 'Get a license, start your own company, and we'll take care of you.'" And I said, "You guys are doing a good job, don't get me wrong, but one day, that's gonna hurt me. One day, it's either gonna hurt my reputation, or when things slow down, somebody that was selling cell phones now owns their own mortgage company, working out of their living room. Well, they're fine with $500, $1,000. They're not even looking at basis points anymore, they're just trying to make a few bucks." And I said, "I can't operate on that because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
trying to run a company, and I need to have a certain basis points just to, like, break even," right? But he said,
Mhm.
"I'm just trying to get more of the people over from the banking side over to the broker side." I said, "I get that." But I believe there, and I still believe, it's granted it's changed now that the market shifted, right? So a lot of those people are out of business, but I I believe we should go a little bit more old school. And if you're going to own the company and be a broker, there needs to be a certain standard that you have to live up to, whether it's your credit
Mhm.
score, money in the bank, X amount of volume, maybe a combination of all of it. But I remember when I became one, I had to go through that. I couldn't just say I want to be a broker. I mean,
Mhm.
I lost one of my own guys one time because he opened up his own broker shop. And I looked at his production. He was closing one and
Mhm.
a half loans per month on average for the previous 2 years during the refi boom when rates were under 3%. How does somebody allow him to become a broker?
Right. Um, I can't speak to the philosophies of others. Obviously we do want people to be set up for success and we believe in the entrepreneurial spirit, but for the right reasons. We want to be able to partner and help people on their journey of starting a new organization with the right tools and, like I said, the right reasons and doing things in a compliant way. And so, that's how we think about it. Like, yes, there's a lot of folks, but like I said earlier, there's so much to go around. And when we want to just fight on, a tenth of a percent here or 10% here or 20% there, like there are so many people that we can help. Um, the more the merrier, but we want to do it in a compliant way and we want our industry to be respected. And there's a lot of things and, not everyone is going to operate maybe the way that you would or the way that we would or many of our other brokers. But if those folks are coming to Rocket, we're going to set them up for
Okay.
success.
I'm going to just throw in my 2 cents and say that I wish that somebody big like Rocket would turn around and say, "No, but we'd love to place you, introduce you to a few of the brokers that we believe could be really good for you until you have at least 2 years worth of industry experience." Just throwing that out there for you to go back
Yeah,
to some big table and say, "Hey, I talked to this guy, Dino, and you know what? He had a good idea." Just, we can leave it at that though. Okay.
I hear you. Yeah,
uh,
I got you. Message
all right, good.
received. Let's put it that way.
So the rocket, what is it? The big idea that you got the $100,000 giveaway, and unfortunately for everybody listening, it it expires tonight. You're listening to it a few weeks too late. Um, but 100 grand, come on, that's a good chunk of change. How good does this idea have to be? So
Yeah.
here's, and the reason why I asked, because I thought through it a little bit. I'm like, I could use 100 grand. Like, why not? But every time I do think of something, I feel like you guys are already like, it's on some table already. So I don't know how to beat all of these great ideas that I already had that you guys are already working on.
Well, we've had many people submit. And a lot of people said, like, well, why are you doing this? And to me, why not? And oftentimes in the mortgage industry, and we've been in it for a while, we always are building things that we think people need or we think people want, and tell us what we want, right? Because we're gonna build all the AI tools. We're gonna try to make it easier to manage your CRM. We're gonna try to make it easier for your recapture. But what are we missing? What are the things that we don't know that are going on that are keeping people up at night? And, people had to do a little bit of work and submit a video and submit a case and all that. But I will tell you in September, we're going to have, the big reveal and, people are going to win prizes and that's $100,000 award. But we want to continue to show the broker community that we're in it together. And it's not up to us to decide all of the cool stuff. And I know we spent a lot of time in our broker offices, like learning and, oh, we did this, but it didn't really help, or we did this and it broke something, or we did this and wow, that really helped us. And so it was just another creative way to get out there and try to really interact with the broker community. And you didn't have to be a rocket broker either. You can be any broker, right? And so what are the
Yeah.
ideas? And
Awesome.
we'll
Well, I
build it.
cannot wait to see what the winning prize is or the winning idea, but also I hope there's a few of them
Mm,
and just exciting, right?
yep.
All right, I'm going to start bringing this to an end. I know our time
Yep.
is coming, and you are a crazy busy woman. So, two last questions. The first one's easy. Your favorite book? What's a book that everybody should read?
I'm gonna go old school. And I'm gonna
What is
say The
it?
Speed of Trust. The
I've never
Speed of
actually read that
Trust.
one. Speed of Trust. Okay.
That's a really good one.
All right.
Yep.
And the next question is my favorite question. It's the $1 million drop. I'm going to take you, I'm going to drop you off somewhere in the United States, and I'm going to force you to do loans. And you cannot go back to see your family or even talk to them until you've made $1 million doing loans. You don't know anybody where I drop you off. You don't have a ton of money, just enough money. I'll give you an allowance to get by and, do a few things. But how are you going to do this?
It's a really great question. I would say, you're gonna make me do loans. I should probably get a job at a bank and rob the bank so I can get home to my family, but that's probably not what I'm gonna do because that's not who I am. Um, I would definitely, the first thing I would do is understand the community that I'm in. Really learn about the community, what's going on in the community. If I have to do loans, how can I do them better? How can I take some of the learnings that I've had? I know I'm not supposed to take
No,
my
no, the
knowledge with
knowledge
me
is all
potentially,
there.
but um,
The the phone
okay,
book
good. So I can
isn't,
have the
right? The
knowledge.
the Rolodex.
So I would just build in that community. I think, one of the things that has helped me be successful over my career is just building relationships and being able to say, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll find out. And so, how do I go into a community and figure out like what is it that is, what is the opportunity? What is the problem that I can fall in love with? And how can I solve that? And of course, would love to make the money to be able to get back to my family. But also, I think the most important thing is when I finally leave that community, have I left it better than when I got there? Because there's more opportunity. There's maybe more people that can get loans because we got creative or we figured out a better way or we figured out how to be more efficient at the local bank. So they were so excited with the returns that they had that they could pay me the $1 million. And who knows? Maybe I move my family to that community because now I'm so invested in the opportunity and I've fallen in love with the relationships and the people and the problem that it just becomes part of who I am.
I love it. I'm gonna let you off the hook a little bit since you don't do loans, but I do love the fact that you came at it from a way of trying to figure out how to be more efficient, how to make something more efficient. It's what I do every single day. It seems like these days is how do I make something more efficient for the mortgage advisor to be more successful? So
That's right. Processes, I'm a process gal. So it's one of my favorite things and a
yeah.
people gal.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you. Thank you. I love your energy. One last question. When you go home, do you sit on the couch or do you just start cleaning and doing stuff? Because I don't know how you get it all.
Um, yeah, no, I take my time to relax for sure. I do have a little bit of downtime, but I just, I love helping others. And so whether I'm doing that through my cell phone, my laptop, you know, replying to Slack messages, but I have, I love what I do. And as long as I love what I do, I'm going to keep operating at this type of, energy
That's awesome.
until I
Well,
can't.
I thank you personally, since I am one of the brokers, for all that you do. And I appreciate you. And I appreciate you making the time to be here. Thank you. And for all you guys
Thank you so
listening,
much.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think Rocket has a lot to offer for us brokers. So if you're not using them, I just ask that you give it a shot. If you guys want to talk to me about it, I'll tell you my personal experience with everything. And for those of you guys that are an approved broker with Rocket, lean into them. Lean into them because they have a lot of great things coming. I got some backdoor secrets that I've heard that Heather wouldn't let out over here, but I've heard some, and I'm just saying, like, this is an exciting time for us. You guys should lean into it heavily. So aside from that, got even better news. Season 2 is coming here really soon. I think Heather might even be the last episode of season 1. So season 2 is going to be really exciting. Everything is going to be really granular on doing loans from the top mortgage advisors in the United States. And there's going to be downloadable playbooks from each and every podcast on exactly how to be the best at one particular thing. So we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.